Okay, thank y'all. So as far as crime overall, we look at a lot of different things. There's really not a whole lot that's changed since this time last year. Thankfully, tax season is now behind us, so that's one less worry that we've got to keep up with. Usually we'll see some increases in things right around there when people start trying to file their taxes and realize that their social security number has been used. So if for some reason you haven't done your taxes yet, make sure that all that goes through and that you don't have any problems. Outside of Briscoe Lakes, we're looking at the same things we usually look at: motor vehicle burglaries. That's been one of our biggest problems. It'll continue to be one of our biggest problems until people are gone. So encourage your friends, your neighbors, your family when they go out. Don't put it, don't just lay things in the floor or the seat. Hide them if they can't take them in. Make sure you lock your doors. So cut a good chunk of our motor vehicle burglaries down just in that. The other thing we're looking at that's fairly new is the catalytic converter thefts. That's gone down from where we were last year, thankfully. It's not quite as big. It's still going to be something that we struggle with until the state. We get a little more punishment for some of the recyclers and things like that, and some of that encouragement goes, the ease of getting rid of it goes away. The city, if you didn't know, passed an ordinance regarding catalytic converter thefts, which makes it a little easier for us to make a stop and potentially make an arrest just based on possession of one. It is just a Class C, which is similar to a traffic citation, but it is one of those steps that we can take that gets us further along the line. So that's something the city has done proactively. We've got a lot of neighboring cities that are trying to model a lot of the same things. So hopefully we'll see state legislature starting doing some things like that, and maybe leads to a reduction of those. Until then, it's another one of those: be careful where you're parking. Make sure it's well lit. People can see. When we look at a lot of the crimes, they're occurring in areas where there's lots of vehicles. We've got to convert that's especially apartment complexes, areas similar to the mall where there's lots of parking, especially multi-level parking. So whenever you get out, just make sure you're paying attention to where you park. It's well lit, you can see it really well, and it's not an easy spot for somebody to kind of tuck in next to you and get under your car real quick. It takes them a couple to get underneath it. Okay. If you weren't aware, the police department has a crime map on our webpage. It's a really great tool if you want to see kind of where everything's going on in the city and what type of offenses we have. It's really, if you look at it, you get a man, what's going on. Briscoe's safest city. It is, if you look at the numbers, it's a lot of property crime. Those motor vehicle burglaries really chew us up on our crime statistics. And it's all occurring where you think it is. So business districts, apartment complexes. If you look on this side of town, you'll see, if you look at what we call it, the high intensity, where everything's going on. You see a bright red dot right here at Stonebrook and 423 where Walmart is. That's shoplifters generate a lot of calls for service right there. They get a lot of things going on, high volume traffic, accidents, things like that. That's all occurring right there. So you see that bright red dot, don't let it fool you. Same thing with anywhere down Preston Road, a lot of businesses, lots of people, lots of things going on. So take a look at that. You can kind of sort by what type of offenses you want to see. If you want to have completely ignore property crimes, you can tell it, hey, I just want to know assaults are going on. Okay. Understand also assaults are going to include things like family violence. So that's going to be the majority of what our assaults on those categories are, is relationship. The other thing I'll say, really, because I don't want to touch on fraud because y'all are getting the whole presentation on that, traffic issues. I think that after COVID, everybody just kind of forgot how to drive. It's like we all just, nobody cares anymore. It's like, I'm just going to do what I want. We have increased the size of our traffic division in order, just as the city grows. One of the options, if you go to our website, you can actually make a traffic tip directly go straight over to the traffic sergeants. I know for a while there, y'all were having issues on the north end with people racing up and down the street. Encourage people to reach out if that's still a problem. I haven't had anybody reach out to me. I don't know if y'all are making those tips still. But that's the best method to do it, is go straight over to our traffic division. What they'll do is they'll take that and they'll go, okay, I've had 8 people complain about speeding in this one area. The more specific you can get, better off it is. Like if it's it's a specific time, Okay, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. They're always doing it. Okay, well, guess what? We're gonna devote somebody, hey, from 8 to 10, if you're not doing anything, swing by up there, see if you can tackle this problem. And then we'll adjust it from there. But it's a big city, got a limited resources, so we need to be able to target those resources. That information comes from y'all. Same thing with it is windy right now. We're talking about this being wind season. It's also tends to be storm season. We get hail here. Those roofers come out, they're knocking on doors. People, if they're violating those solicitation signs, give us a call. Those people, they're probably not up to no good, but there are those in there that take advantage of it. Okay. So give us a call on those things. It definitely is see something, reach out to us and say something. I don't know if it's going on. Maybe reach out to us. That's pretty much in a nutshell what's going on. Nothing, like I said, nothing really outrageously new. Did anybody have any questions while I'm here? Sure.
In regard to roofers, are licensed or something like that versus funds?
So there are a lot of licensing requirements. I don't deal with those types of things, but most of the legitimate companies, they're going to have a uniform of some kind. They should have some kind of ID identifying them. They'll have a vehicle usually. The ones that I get more concerned about are the people that there's no car parked anywhere. It's just a guy walking down the street with a footboard to every single house, because they're getting dropped off at the entrance to the neighborhood. It's them and 4 people that they picked up from, somewhere along the lines from that online. And they're just going to the door to see what kind of, they can get you to agree to something. A lot of those, what we'll see is they'll say, okay, we need X amount of money up front. We'll pay it, and they disappear. So that's usually the objective on those. Most of those types of things are not going to be I'm looking for who's home to kick in the door. Not to say that they aren't out there, but the majority of them, they figured out it's easier if I can just show up and convince you that if you pay me $2,000 right now, we'll come in tomorrow and fix the roof. You pay for it and never see or hear from them again. And you look them up online, and it goes, oh, this company doesn't. Very, very obviously not something that you'll get a lot of people where they'll say this company is a scam. Because people start talking, especially once they've gone to several other neighborhoods and type in the name in Google, usually will get you results.
Are there any plans for putting up another street light, either at Stonebrook and Lights Drive or at Witt?
I don't know the answer to that. That's all done through traffic engineering. They do their traffic studies. But
those 2 places are so dangerous.
They do take into account, like if you're making traffic complaints about, this,
Right.
There are spots. Okay, yeah. So I believe traffic engineering has a part on their website that has
right.
that you can fill out and say, hey, I think a stoplight and stop sign here. They'll come out and they'll do a study report. They're pretty constantly looking at those things. I look at this.
I know they have the counting on Stonebrook. So I was just curious.
Yeah, they're pretty constantly looking at traffic since it is a big issue. We're growing town, a lot of commercial and tourists. So they're looking at a lot of that, trying.
Is the noise zone what time? 7 o'clock or what?
So technically, city ordinance, technically it's at any time. It doesn't have to have a specific time. If it's a quality of life thing, you can call me in the middle of the day and say, my neighbor's blaring their rock and roll, way too loud. And I can come out and I can say, hey, turn it down a little bit. Yeah, hardly anything's up here, right? Technically, it's, I believe, 10 p.m. to it's 7 a.m., 6 a.m., something like that is the presumed times. So I don't have to have a person call me and tell me that there's a loud noise. If I drive down the road and I can hear music playing from 3 blocks away, I can go over and I can take action on my end. Is that presumed? But technically, the city ordinance, the way it's written, it can be a violation of the noise ordinance. I just have to have a complaint.
Or it's 6 o'clock. 5:30.
So you can call us, we'll come out and we'll talk to them. Usually most of the time it's, first time it's, I'm gonna educate you about what the ordinance is, because a lot of them are from out of town. Say, hey, ordinance starts at, whatever it is. It's been a while since I've enforced ordinance, so don't quote me on those times. But we'll go out and we'll tell them, hey, this is when you're allowed to start working. Violated again, somebody come out and you'll get a ticket. And we'll kind of adjust it there for whatever happened. But yeah, give us a call, even if it's they start at 15 minutes beforehand. You know what? It's a really early morning. They need to be, I get to the top, but them's the breaks.
Got a question about the traffic deal. It's been brought to my attention that FM 423 is a state highway. So that means meaning Frisco doesn't control the traffic lights. But who does control the traffic?
To the best of my knowledge, the lights are controlled by the city, because if you recall, that turn light here on Lovell used to be a flashing yellow until that accident. It's no longer that way because the city.
Well, that's my understanding. Like, on 423 is a state highway, and or it's not controlled by.
It's a farm to market road, and Preston Road is a state highway as well.
That's true.
And so as far as the lights and things like that, they belong to the city. The state can come in, like the troopers can come out here and traffic enforcement if they choose to. They don't, but if they wanted to, yeah, they could. It's one of those things that's why you see like the multiple, every city you go through on 423, speed limit changes. A lot of that's determined by the city. There probably is some sort of special thing they have to go through and involving the state when it comes to widening, applying certain speed limits and things like that, where they have to get permission from the state. But like the lights is the best thing.
Well, in regard to 423, I noticed that it seemed like 423, the lights tend to favor, especially during certain times of day, like commuter traffic time, they favor the north and south lanes versus the now. Again, that question goes back: does police set the timing on that?
We're got nothing to do with that. That's traffic engineering. All that's set to a specific timing based on times of day.
Okay, and that's traffic engineering with the police department?
With the city.
The city.
That should be another one of those things. There should be a form, their webpage somewhere. I think the light here is red for entirely too long. And send them an email and they'll explain it. Why they believe it to be the way it is, or they'll go, okay, we'll get.
Any other questions? Yes, one more then.
Last one.
Why is it that the police officers are not getting the respect that they deserve?
I don't think I have that kind of time.
Everybody supports the police, but then you see on TV, teenagers are not respecting the police officers like these. They're fighting them.
So a lot of that comes from just that media. A lot of the coverage of the way some things occurred in the last several years, kind of put a negative light on a lot of it. That's a good chunk of it. Don't really have that problem here, but there's always going to be people that don't like it. Job security.